Hey, Mr. P here with Mr. Dave.
Hello.
The 60th anniversary of Doctor Who is fast approaching, Dave.
It is. It's coming up very quick. Happy 60th Doctor Who.
Absolutely. David Tennant returning, as you know, as the 14th incarnation of the Doctor.
It is.
So we thought we'd just have a quick look back at some of the Doctors that have already come out. There's been quite a few of them, or variations thereof.
And a few enemies as well.
Yeah, quite a few enemies as well. So if you just in case you don't know anything about Doctor Who, this is like our quick starter's guide, I suppose.
Yeah. Bit of a quick trek through the Doctor's timeline.
Yeah. So we're going to start with the first and second Doctors today. So
yes, these guys.
We'll do a close-up shot of them for you so you can see the first and the second Doctors.
Originals, you might say.
Yes. Now here you can see the first one. He always wore that kind of costume there with the white scarf and the black hat. There is a different version of him here as well from a different episode, but you can quite clearly see it's the same one.
Yeah, it was very dark back in those days because everything was black and white anyway. Sort of.
And here is the second Doctor, or variations thereof. So we've got two of them there to look at. Look, and you can see it's the same guy. So who are they and what are they doing? Well, Doctor Who was a sort of it was sort of started as like a children's time travel type show to educate people.
Yeah.
And it started back in November '63.
Yes.
Way back when.
Yeah, science fiction drama children's series, which was
they kind of started with that, and then they dropped the sort of pitched for children.
Yeah.
And they just pitched it at everybody and adults alike, and it worked.
Yeah. I mean, we've still obviously had historical episodes through the years, but it's not so predominant on that anymore. No. That's true.
No. They pitched it as just a family show to watch, and it worked a lot better.
Yeah.
So, who's the Doctor? Let's cover that first.
Yeah.
So, the Doctor is a Time Lord from the planet Gallifrey and the constellation of Cerberus. Don't tell me. You don't ask me the galactic coordinates off the top of my head. I don't know them. I should have written them down.
Something about gravitational centre or something.
Galactic centre.
Galactic centre.
Something from something galactic centre. I don't know. Anyway, so he's an alien and he time travels in his TARDIS. Now this is his TARDIS. TARDIS stands for Time and Relative Dimension in Space, or Dimensions in Space, depending on which abbreviation you use. It looks like a police phone box, and there's a reason for that. The TARDIS has a chameleon circuit, which is basically a little circuit that means that his ship can disguise itself wherever it lands or materialises, and we'll come to that later. Because I said November '63, it materialised in... the dog sniffing around. It materialised in 1960s London, and police boxes were quite common then. And if you aren't sure, if you think this was just for the show, it wasn't. Police boxes were common. They were used by the British Police Force, or the Met Police specifically to start with. It had a phone in there because it was before radios, and you could lock people in there if you'd arrested someone and were waiting for help.
Citizens arrest, you could put them in there, couldn't you?
No, just the police.
Was it just the police?
Yeah, just the keys. But they had no cells, they had no police vans or anything like that. They were all on bicycles and walking, weren't they? So
there's still a few of them knocking about. Most of them are libraries and little coffee stores and things now. I think out of the original ones that were still standing when Tom Baker was the Doctor in Legopolis, which was the last episode, they tried to find an original. There was one, but they didn't use it in the end. They used a prop. There weren't that many in good condition that's still standing, unfortunately, because they were made out of stone and all sorts. But anyway, so the Doctor travels around in his TARDIS through time and space. So he can time travel and go through space. So he can pretty much go anywhere, which is cool as a tool for a writer. As a premise, it's very good.
So the Doctor travels around space to having adventures, pretty much saving everybody. And he takes with him companions.
Yes, he does.
He goes along with him. And the first Doctor, played expertly by William Hartnell, had his daughter with him.
His granddaughter.
Sorry, granddaughter, my mistake. Granddaughter with him, Susan Foreman. Although that's probably just the name that they gave her on Earth. We probably didn't know what her real name was.
Yeah.
He just called her Susan Foreman. Anyway, Foreman, I ought to say, is not probably her second name.
Wasn't Foreman because of the
yard? Yeah. The TARDIS landed at something Foreman and Sons. It was a junkyard.
On Totter's Lane. Yeah, junkyard, wasn't it?
So yeah, so he travels around the universe in his TARDIS, helping people, solving problems, that kind of thing. And the show started a bit more historically, like we said. So
yeah, it did. Yeah.
So they'd go and see the Vikings and
Romans,
about that, and Romans.
pirates, all those kind of times back in history, didn't they? Which is obviously so was very interesting. Was very good for education for kids back in the day, and sort of very quickly brings another couple of companions on as well, doesn't he? Susan's two teachers.
Yeah, so being Time Lords, they're very clever, and she has to go to school anyway in London because they're trying to blend in a bit.
Yeah,
they're kind of on the run a little bit. Yeah, from the Time Lords at this point, and we find out a bit more about that later on. But yeah, her teachers become suspicious because she's so clever. So they follow her home, which is a bit weird, but they follow her home and discover the Doctor and the TARDIS, and they end up going with, well, he ends up kidnapping them essentially. Yeah, but then they become friends and they travel with him as companions in the TARDIS. Now, this is a quick deep dive, so not a deep dive, sorry, this is a quick look. So we're not going to go into lots and lots and lots. We are just going to say that during the run as the Doctor in this first 3 years that William Hartnell did it, there were quite a lot of episodes, and they were usually split up into smaller ones. So one full one was split over 3 or 4 smaller bits.
Yeah, that's right.
And you've got your own little K9 there. Come here. So some good episodes. I quite liked Time Meddler.
Yeah,
this started
the Mad Monk.
Peter Butterworth as the meddling monk.
Yeah.
He was from the Carry On films, actually.
Yeah, I know you said that earlier. Yeah, he was, wasn't he?
We don't want your blanket. Come here. We've got our own K9 running around. K9 was a dog, a robot dog that the Doctor had.
We'll come to that later.
Yeah, we'll come to that later. And basically, Paul Butterworth, Carry On. So he played famous, if you're not sure, Carry On Camping. He played the guy that owns the field. So every time they turned up, was it Carry On Camping? Another one where they camp in. I think it's camping. And he keeps charging them £1 extra for everything, doesn't it? If you remember that.
It rings a bell, yeah.
How much is it? Oh, it's got to go up, I'm afraid. £1. Oh, no, that's gone up £1. He's the one that's in charge of the film. Anyway, we digress slightly.
Yeah, that was good. The Keys of Marinus. The Aztecs, where the Doctor accidentally gets engaged. It's quite funny. Before the time of River Song and all that later on in time.
In fact, let's just put a picture of that on the screen. There he is. Fantastic. Yeah. Aztecs, good episode. Keys of Marinus, as you said, a good episode.
And of course, his final episode as well.
Yeah, so just very quickly, a little bit on this. So William Hartnell was quite an elderly gentleman anyway.
Yes.
Was he into his 60s anyway when he got the role?
Pretty much.
Late 50s, early 60s. So he's quite old anyway, and he got ill, and that started to show he couldn't remember his lines quite a lot.
No, he was struggling a bit with that, wasn't he?
So the decision was made that obviously he couldn't play the Doctor anymore. So what do you do with this fantastic show that you'd built up that's really popular? You could recast the part.
Yeah.
But then it's like, but then it's not the same, is it?
No.
So they came up with this brilliant idea. How can we recast it with a different actor and it still be the same person? Well, they came up with regeneration. And the idea is a Time Lord can regenerate his entire body, essentially change every cell in his body and become essentially a new person.
Same memories, but a different
with the same
person.
memories. And so that's what they did. And that's when we get our second Doctor.
Yeah, well, we ought to mention the end of the first Doctor's reign as well, in the 10th planet where we first meet the Cybermen.
This was October 66. So it ran from November 63 to October 66 for the first Doctor.
Which was a very good episode. It was a good way to end and bow out his tenure.
Mondasian Cybermen.
Yes.
And we'll come back to that later on when we come to Doctor 12.
Yes, we'll have a Mondasian coffee in the meantime.
Yes. So that's really good. So yeah, they could have regenerated into Patrick Troughton.
Yes, indeed.
Now, new actor comes new personality.
Yeah.
And this really worked for the show.
Yeah, I think so. So we'd had quite a few seasons and episodes of the kind of old crotchety, old man, granddad kind of Doctor, which I think probably the novelty of it was running off a little bit by then. Like you say, he was getting a bit fed up doing it with his state of health. So yeah, I think it was a good time to have a big change and have an actor come in with a different take on the character.
Yeah, and I think the different personalities really helped it work.
Yeah, it did. Brought in a whole new audience as well.
It's refreshed the show each time as well, which was really good. So the second Doctor, like we said, the first Doctor ended in October '66. It was the following month in November '66 when we had The Power of the Daleks, which was the first episode of Patrick Troughton.
Yeah.
I've not watched a lot of Patrick Troughton. I've seen more William Hartnell than Patrick Troughton, but
yeah,
he was more comedic.
Yeah, I mean, he's always like tagged as like the cosmic hobo, isn't he? And so he got his oversized suit jacket and he got his bow tie.
Cool.
Which obviously, Matt Smith reflected back on in his tenure. It's a different look, brighter, more comedic personality.
We didn't did we get colour for the second Doctor? We didn't get colour.
We did later on, I think, right towards the end. Yeah.
The people are now watching this thinking, what are they talking about? Colour. Colour wasn't always on televisions.
No, that's right. It was in black and white back in the day.
So we said they retain memories, and very often when they regenerate, they retain the companions as well. So Polly and Ben were the companions at the end of the first Doctor, so they went through into the second Doctor's tenure. But then we had, when he ended, it was with Jamie, Zoe and Victoria. But Jamie McCrimmon, is it?
McCrimmon
is worth mentioning, played by the fantastic Fraser Hines, because he was like one of the long-running companions of the second Doctor.
Yeah, that was right.
They kind of had their main companion, didn't they, in the old days that ran through most of them.
Yeah, he was in a lot of episodes, and he was kind of really the second one in command to the Doctor, really. If the Doctor went missing, they all kind of relied on Jamie to try and sort it out.
And I guess that's because of the experience that he's got.
Yeah.
And I mean, we're just looking at some of the episodes then. So, Tomb of the Cybermen.
Very classic episode. Certainly the one that brought the new companions closer together. I think certainly Jamie and Victoria became a lot closer in that episode. So the Doctor was very, very busy trying to work out what was going on and trying to protect everybody. A new kind of
Cybermen as well. We've seen obviously Mondasian Cybermen, and they were very much.
This was on Telos, wasn't it? Rather than on Mondas. This was the Telos Cybermen.
These Cybermen seemed a little bit more menacing and a lot more advanced and a lot more dangerous.
Well, there was kind of the classic scene, still one of the classic scenes in all of Doctor Who, where like they get the big uptick of the music and it all becomes quite intense. They find all these cryopods with all like these Cybermen asleep that suddenly wake up and start smashing through and escaping.
Scary stuff when you're a young kid watching TV.
Yeah, so I mean that's certainly one of those behind the sofa moments that
just point out we didn't watch it live in the 60s. We're not quite that old, despite what people might think.
Not that old. But yeah, that was certainly one of the classics and the reveal of a classic villain and bringing the companions closer together and probably closer with the Doctor as well because he's having to protect them and somehow get them back to the TARDIS and get them out of there and protect Earth as well, obviously. So yeah, that was a very good episode.
The Doctor, I think it's worth saying that the Doctor Who works because the Doctor as an alien is so different as a contrast to the human companions, or not always human, that he takes along with him. And the companions act as the audience. They answer the questions for the audience. So the Doctor will run around doing alien stuff, being quite a genius and clever and fixing things. And it's the companion's job unofficially
this
for
is
the
why,
viewer
Doctor,
to say, why are we doing this?
Why
what are we doing? How's that working?
Yeah, how's that going to protect us?
And then the Doctor can explain to them, but really explain to us what's going on.
Yeah,
and
in more layman's terms.
Really well.
Yeah, at the end of the day, the Doctor's the cleverest person in the room, and you need, with hundreds, thousands of years of memories and know-how, and so it's good to have the companions there to bring that more human element.
Another thing we ought to just point out, as a Time Lord, the Doctor, we said he can regenerate. When we meet the Doctor for the first time, it's implied that this is the first incarnation of the Doctor, and there's been no generations before it.
Yeah.
Now, if we forget the sort of timeless child stuff for now, if you know what that is, and let's assume that that's the case, the Doctor is only, when it's the original William Hartnell, he's only like 200 and something. He's quite young as a Doctor.
Yeah, he is,
I mean, we get up here to the 9th Doctor and he's 900. I think Tom Baker's about 400, so I think they just kept it at each Doctor's 100 years.
Yeah.
Roughly. Until we got up here and it went a bit wonky. That's not a direct quote and that's not a direct science. It's just that the 4th Doctor was like 400 and something. The 9th Doctor was 900.
And then there's been things with like Matt Smith and Peter Capaldi that's like greatly extended it, hasn't he? Where he's going to be probably a lot more now.
Yeah.
But yeah, 2nd Doctor did some very, I would say, classic episodes. Tomb of the Cybermen right up there. Also Web of Fear with the Yetis and the Brigadier. Which we have as well.
Yeah.
And I think Web of Fear is actually the first time we meet the Brigadier as well, but he's actually a captain.
So Brigadier is a captain or Brigadier Lethbridge Stewart. Alistair Lethbridge Stewart.
Yeah. Pops up throughout Doctor Who, doesn't he?
Played by Nicholas Courtney. And he's been in Doctor Who throughout almost the entire run up to and including, he saw... Did he see Matt Smith in the Sarah Jane Adventures? I'm not sure now if he did.
He was in it. He was in the Sarah Jane Adventures.
He was in the Sarah Jane Adventures.
I don't think so
later on. But anyway, just one more quick mention then before we finish, because this is just a quick thoughts about these Doctors. Enemy of the World, worth just mentioning. So Patrick Troughton played the Doctor, the 2nd Doctor, but he also played another character in the same episode, which was like his doppelganger.
Yeah, he's a dictator of like this dystopian kind of backward, almost like communist-esque world.
I so want to say it, but I'm not going to. We're going to stay politically neutral.
Yeah, he's kind of got that hint to it. It's people are very oppressed, rules are very backward and putting people in danger and exploiting people. But like you said, the funny thing is this dictator who's at the figurehead of all of this is the absolute doppelganger of the 2nd Doctor.
And played by Patrick Troughton, which is the joke because the Doctor has to then pretend to be him later on.
Yeah, and then basically something happens to that dictator. And the 2nd Doctor realises that, maybe I can help out a bit here if I kind of pretend to be this person, even though it's going to really hurt to do it, to try and be this dictator. He does that and kind of starts making things better, and obviously he's got to watch about him coming back. He sends Jamie and his companions out to kind of be the eyes on the street to
There's a lot of action in it as
make
well,
sure they didn't come back. It's the type of episode that you could have imagined Peter Capaldi playing really well, actually.
Yeah.
They could have done that in a modern episode, and it'd have worked really well as well.
We end the 2nd Doctor on the War Games in April of '69. So again, they both did 3 years in the role.
Yeah.
And it's worth pointing out that the Doctor's done quite a lot of meddling himself during this time. So the 1st and 2nd Doctor, we say meddling, fixing problems, making planets better, solving, helping people. But the Time Lords didn't quite see it that way.
No, they kind of had the zero interference rule, didn't they?
So at the end of this episode, they do relegate him to Earth because he said, "Oh, you like Earth so much, you can go and stay there."
Yeah,
it's like scolding a child, isn't it?
Yeah, they give him exile, don't they? And they control his regeneration as well, don't they?
Yeah, they force him to regenerate into the 3rd Doctor, which we're going to come to in the next
video.
So yeah, that's fun. I love the 1st and 2nd Doctors. They really, I think William Hartnell really set a precedent there for being a great Doctor. And I think if Patrick Troughton had not been able to take over as well as he did, it would have just stopped.
Yeah, it's one of them where you could have seen that.
It's not just William Hartnell here that we're saying was really good. No. It's William Hartnell and Patrick Troughton that were both as good. And because both of them were so good,
at the end of the day, they're the foundations of the show, aren't they? And like you say, if it hadn't worked out with them, then it wouldn't have continued how it did, wouldn't have become so popular. And, we might have had a completely different experience. It may not have happened and gone on as long as it has done.
True. Well, join us next time when we're going to be talking about the 3rd and 4th Doctors. which might end up being a slightly longer video, actually.
Yeah, Mr. John Pertwee and Mr. Tom Baker.
Tom Baker was there for quite some time, so there's a little bit more to talk about.
Might have to do a much longer video for Tom Baker.
Yeah, I mean,
as long as the scarf.
He was 73 to 81. That's quite a long tenure. Yeah. Memory Palace is back in full working order.
But we'll break into that fully. We'll work that out.
Don't forget to get all our geeky content on our socials, and you can find the links on geekyeyes.co.uk. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.